Cuttlefish! Cuttlefish are very smart creatures that understand their environment mostly through visual and olfactory cues. In the experiment we will be discussing today, researchers wanted to test whether cuttlefish could discriminate between these two different types of stimuli. So let's dive in! In Experiment 1, during the training period, the cuttlefish were taught to associate different panels with different stimuli of crabs, either visual, olfactory, or neither, as the control group. Once the cuttlefish were able to choose the right panel 8 out of 10 times, they were able to move on to the testing phase. The cuttlefish were then tested with a delay period of 1 hour after being exposed to either of the two stimuli. This time, with only 2 panels that correspond with the 2 cues in the tank. All the cuttlefish chose the correct panel. Woohoo! However, they were not able to do this with a novel stimulus, such as a shrimp. They were then tested the next day with a 3-hour delay, and most of them still chose the correct panel. In Experiment 2, the cuttlefish were trained with fish and shrimp as well as crabs. The cuttlefish had to go through a transfer test before being able to move on to the testing phase in Experiment 2. In this phase, the cuttlefish had to choose the correct corresponding panel with a novel stimulus, such as seaweed, before moving on to the testing phase. This assures the researchers that the cuttlefish can discriminate between sight and smell, not just because they learned associations, only with the trained stimuli. The cuttlefish were still able to discriminate between the visual and olfactory stimuli, even with exposure to multiple species. In this clip, we see how the stimuli were presented to the cuttlefish. The visual stimuli were presented in a glass tube, separating them from the cuttlefish. Drops of the scent of each particular animal or stimulus were dropped into the tank for the olfactory stimuli. Here we see how the cuttlefish were tested with different types of animals in Experiment 2. By being trained with multiple stimuli, it allows the researchers to better understand whether the cuttlefish have only learned associations with the training stimuli, or if they can discriminate between sight and smell with a novel stimuli as well. Because the cuttlefish were not able to discriminate between sight and smell with different animals in Experiment 1, as there was only one training animal, this helps us understand that the cuttlefish were using associative learning here. However, in Experiment 2, after training with multiple stimuli, the cuttlefish were able to generalize their discrimination learning to new novel stimuli, showing discrimination between sight and smell. This study was the first to show discrimination abilities between sensory modalities and animals. Woohoo! Thanks for watching! For more information, please refer to the study itself cited above.